Hi, I'm Rob Riches and welcome to Behind the Plate, the food program that takes you beyond the kitchen and has a closer look at many of the latest diet trends and food fads alike in the real world. On today's show, I'll be taking a closer look at low-carb diets, made popular in recent years by many trendsetters and A-lister celebrities known for its rapid weight loss. But is this low-carb rapid weight loss approach the safest and quickest way in shifting the body fat without shedding the muscle? Perhaps not. I'm at a local supermarket here in Los Angeles, California to have a look at 3 very different carb sources and then be back in the kitchen to mix up a healthy, carb-conscious meal that will be critical to your weight loss success. Right then, the first thing I'm putting into my basket are these yams, sometimes known as sweet potatoes. Now they're a member of the potato family, but unlike most white potatoes, we're going to have this early in the morning as a breakfast meal because of its complex, slow release energy. It's going to be ideal for early on in the day. So a couple of these into the basket, we'll have a look at them back in the kitchen. Now when it comes to fruit, most people tend to shy away from fruit because of the sugars, which can affect their blood sugar level. But in this case, we're going to add fruit to our basket and use this for post-workout when our body needs those sugars quickly to help maintain the muscle mass. Back in the kitchen, we'll be having a look at some of the lower glycemic foods. But speaking about fruits, berries are some of the lowest glycemic of higher sugared fruits, so these are going to be ideal for morning as a snack and to include again in a post-workout shake. While brown rice tends to be one of the most carb-heavy meals out there, with most of its calories coming directly from carbohydrates, people tend to shy away from this food again on low-carb diets. But we're going to use the complex, slow-releasing energy to mix it in with our post-workout shake, giving us an ideal time length of released carbohydrates into the bloodstream. So mixing slow with fast acting sugars will slow down the overall release of those sugars after that meal. When on diets, most people tend to skip breakfast, at least for on a low carb diet, when their breakfast seems to be heavy with carbohydrates. But there's good and bad carbohydrates. These oats are fantastic, organic, slow releasing carbohydrate that's going to be ideal for morning time, keep their energy and the blood sugar level stable. Some people may go for more of a pre-packaged food, which is fine, it's healthier than some of the other high sugars out there. But if you actually have a look at the nutritional facts, we can see that the same serving, this one has 1 gram of sugar, this one has 15 grams more sugar per serving than the oats, so it's not hard to decide which carbohydrate is going to be best for our breakfast source of meal. It's that one. So that one goes back on the shelf. You know, I've heard a lot of people over the past few years say they get most of their carbohydrates from their greens, from vegetables and salad. The truth is, a lot of the calories, and there's not too many in something like this, broccoli, are locked calories to the body. They're fibrous carbs that the body can't quite break down and access, certainly in terms of sugar and therefore energy, the same way that it can from some of the other carb choices we have looked at. Brown rice, yams, oats. So veg is a great source of fiber and bulk calories. I look at this as a free food. So if we're looking at entering a diet stage and reducing our calories, loading up on greens is a great way to maximize the amount of food you're eating without loading it with calories. Now, while this might look like your average melon, this is in fact Italian squash. It's melon looking, but it's anything like melon tasting. This is going to be ideal for our low carb dinner, where we can again maximize the amount of food and the taste without adding in calories and carbohydrates. Now, you may have heard before that a calorie is the same as any other calorie, whether it's from a protein, a carbohydrate, or a fat. Well, that's not true. They all respond differently within the body. Take potatoes, for example. 3 different varieties here. White baked potato, yam, and a sweet potato. all come from the same family of potatoes, and each one, if they were the same size, might have similar calories, except the type of carbohydrates in here are going to be affected by the body. Basically how quickly they're going to be broken down and their sugars released as energy into the bloodstream. So we'll look at these in closer detail back in the kitchen. Just like with our potatoes back there, each one from the same variety can have a different impact on how quickly the fuels are broken down by the body. So same with fruit. Take these for example, kiwi and a mango. Both exotic fruits and both release their sugars into the bloodstream faster than some other homegrown fruits such as berries, apples and pears. So we're going to keep these for our post-workout shake when we need those sugars quickly to enter into the muscle. Another high glycemic fruit is this watermelon, but we're going to stay away from this today and opt for the smaller fruits such as the kiwi and the mango for use in our post-workout shake. Bread seems to be the last thing you're going to have on a low carbohydrate diet. This is one of the highest carbohydrate foods out there, gram for gram, with a lot of the carbohydrates making up its main calories. But if you look for something like Ezekiel bread or even rye bread, or especially whole grain with some seeds in there, this can help keep the carbohydrates down, and we're going to incorporate this into our final evening meal just a little bit, again to add some slow release carbohydrates to keep our blood sugar level steady throughout the rest of the day. Now you might be thinking that fruits and fruit sugars and juices and jams alike are all high in sugar and therefore should be left out of a low carb diet. Well, you're right, but if we look at the amount of that we might have in our diet, then it becomes a great source of fast-acting fuel both for morning and post-workout when we need to refuel the muscle and keep our blood sugar levels rippling along at a steady pace. So I'm going to take this no sugar added apple sauce, really clean, it's just got apples and water in, or you can make your own and use this in one of our morning low carb meals. Now that we have our choice of different types of carbohydrates, ranging from our fibrous veg to our faster acting and low glycemic ones for different times throughout the day, I can head back to the kitchen and get started on our carb conscious health meals that are going to help you shed the weight without losing the muscle. Okay, that's the last of the ingredient ready. Great. Now that I'm back in the kitchen, we can start to take a closer look at some of these carb conscious meals with the ingredients I picked up in the store earlier. But before I do, I'd like to share with you 3 points that will allow you to keep carbohydrates in your diet and still focus on fat burning and healthy muscle gains. These are: number 1, food type. It's important that we understand the different types of carbohydrates available so that we know the difference between slow, complex carbohydrates, some of these faster acting high glycemic fruits. So we'll take a look at those within these meals a little later on. The second one is food portion, or rather the amount. How much of these carbohydrates is it safe to eat at each meal? If we have too much, there's a risk it could be stored as body fat. Too little, there's a risk our body will start wasting away or catabolizing muscle for fuel. And thirdly, timing. When is it best to have these carbohydrates throughout the day? And this also relates around breakfast and workout, both before and after. So we'll be taking a look at that. Okay, I think we should get started. First up, breakfast, and for that I'll be making this high glycemic, complex carbohydrate oatmeal pancake. Let's check out the ingredients. So what I have here for the first carb conscious meal is a combination of oats. We looked at these as a slow release energy, complex carbohydrates. Really the best type of breakfast cereal we can buy, as the other one had high amounts of sugar. We're combining the slow release complex carbohydrates with some faster acting ones, some blueberries here and some banana, both of which give us about equal amounts of sugar as we do with the complex energy in the oats. So that's going to help raise our blood sugar level after it having dipped throughout the night time. And then the slower, more complex energy releasing oats will provide us with a good 2 to 3 or 4 hours of constant energy release throughout the morning. So this is great for anyone who works out in the morning or is looking at maintaining as much muscle as possible. But it's important we combine these carbohydrates with some protein. And for that, I'll be using this Body Raise Pro Effect whey. some pure whey protein combined with some egg whites from these 5 eggs. Let's get started. This one's really quick and simple, and it tastes great too. What I'm going to do is, with the blender here, start by adding the oats. 40 grams in there. I'm going to save the fruit for after, and instead add these egg whites. Just crack them on top, separate the yolk from the white. It's important that we combine essential complete proteins with this combination of egg whites and the whey powder to allow these carbohydrates to be shuttled into the muscle along with the building blocks from the amino acids in the protein. So a nice combination of pure high quality ingredients. So egg whites and oats in there. Let's get some of this whey. This is vanilla protein, one of the highest quality forms of protein. I'm going to add about 1.5 scoops in there. Altogether, these 2 or 3 pancakes, depending how big you make them, will give you about 45 grams of protein, 45 grams of complex carbohydrates of equal blend with those fast-acting and slow-release ones, and only about 5 grams of fat. So altogether, these 2 or 3 pancakes come in at just under 500 calories. A little bit more to add. 3 basic ingredients in there. I'm going to add a pinch of this nutmeg and cinnamon, both for flavor and its fat-burning thermogenic properties in there. It will also help regulate blood sugar levels, so that will help stop the sugars from the fruit from increasing the insulin too high. And that's what we need to worry about. When the insulin goes up, the body can start taking the sugar out from the blood and potentially dumping it in fat. When it comes to breakfast, when I was a kid, I used to love putting jam and other condiments on top of my pancakes, and these weren't the healthy kind of pancakes. So instead of adding jam to these, I want to keep them healthy and fairly low carbs, or at least low in sugar. So I'm adding a few droplets of this stevia extract. It's a natural plant extract that's about 300 times sweeter than sugar, so we only need a tiny amount in there. Plus it's natural, so our bodies are going to be able to metabolize it a lot better. Time to mix. Wow, smells incredible. Just a few seconds in the blender, all of our ingredients is nicely mixed up. Should get about 2 medium-sized pancakes out of that. Next thing we need to do is fire up the stove over here and get the pan heated up. Even though I'm using a non-stick pan, I'm still going to use a little bit of this low-cal non-stick spray, so that when we put the pancake mixture in, we can easily take it out without it sticking and burning. And every time we add carbohydrates to heat, their molecular structure, the chain between the bonds, get broken down, and this will actually increase the speed at which the sugars can go from the gut into the bloodstream. So we want to try and keep the carbohydrates, the original ones from the oats, as complex as possible. So low heat when cooking with carbs. Now I've got enough for 2 medium-sized pancakes here, so only half the mixture goes into the pan now. That should take no more than about 2 or 3 minutes, turning it after about 2 minutes until it's slightly golden brown on top. So while that's cooking, let's have a look at the fruits that we're going to be adding to this really perfect blend of muscle building and energy releasing throughout the morning oatmeal pancakes. So the fruits we have here, good serving of fruit blueberries, high in antioxidants to fight the free radicals, and a good serving of banana here, which has some good fast acting sugars and is also high in potassium, which is great for if you work out early in the morning and you need to replenish some of those lost electrolytes, especially if you're cramping in the next day or two from DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. So from this combination, we're getting a good mixture of free radical fighting antioxidant properties in the blueberries and a nice balance of complex and fast acting carbohydrates with the oats and the banana. So this is going to turn out to be a great tasting muscle building breakfast meal. It's looking like it's almost done. Let's just give it a flip to make sure we give it some heat on the other side. Look at that, golden brown. Another minute or so on there, and then I can remove that pancake. start to fold in some of these fast acting sugars in the fruit and get the rest of the ingredients in the pan. Yep, that looks good enough to eat. I'm gonna move this on the pan. Put that aside, ready for the rest of the ingredients. But before I put that in, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do with this pancake that we have here. Really simple. I'm gonna take half the blueberries, put them there in the middle. Take some of this banana and lay them out here. As you can see, even though we're under 500 calories for 2 pancakes, we're getting a good mixture of healthy, fast-acting carbohydrates and the more slow-release carbohydrates. I'm just going to fold that over there. Look at that, it's not even breaking at the sides. Put that to one side. I mean, that right there is a great snack, especially for post-workout. Let's get the rest of the ingredients in. For this, I just need to add the rest of the recipe into the pan. And that looks like the second one is just about done. Slides just as easily off the pan as the first. I'm going to finish up by laying the rest of this fruit, banana down first, kind of making a barrier with that, and then the blueberries go in the middle. Simply fold it over like a crepe, keeping all the fruit in the middle. Put that with the other one. And there we have our near perfect blend of equal protein, equal complex and fast acting carbohydrates, and a meal that comes in at just over 200 calories for each oatmeal pancake, packed full of rich fast acting amino acids for muscle building, complex and fast release carbohydrates for bringing that blood sugar level back up in the morning and providing you with a good 3 if not 4 hours of constant energy released throughout the morning. So with our first meal done, let's put that to one side and move on to the second one. Now I'm sticking with breakfast still on this one, as that one had great protein, great complex carbohydrates. But what I hear you ask, if you want an alternative to the higher carb one and have more of a low carb choice, well, that's where this one comes in. Now it may look like I've got a selection of what I've cut the yams into slices around our applesauce that we got from the store, but in fact these yams here contain less than half the amount of carbohydrates and still complex carbohydrates than, if you remember, lesser amount of oats. So we're actually getting more food here. What I've done is slice up these yams into kind of like potato crisps, and I'm going to microwave these, put a tablespoon of cold water in here, cover them and microwave them for 3 minutes so that they're slightly soft to touch, and put them in the blender. So let's get our water in here and get them in the microwave. The great thing about these yam variants of the pancakes, or yam cakes if you like, is that it's actually less than half the carbohydrate content than the oatmeal pancakes. And I'm also removing all of the fruit content so that we're only left with the slow release complex carbohydrates. And it's basically the same process. We're going to take our now softened yam, put all 120 grams of that into the blender. Now to help with the consistency, I'm going to take this applesauce, put 1 teaspoon in there. It's really going to help bring out the flavors of the already nutty and spicy yams. And then in go the egg whites. So just crack these, separate the yolks again, just like we did with the oatmeal pancakes, and then add our spices. Now you can also use pasteurized liquid egg whites, and the amount that we're putting in would come to about 4 ounces, which is about 12-15 grams worth of good quality complete protein to assist with the carbohydrates and help get all of the carbohydrates in the form of glycogen into the muscle and away from the fat cell. Last egg. egg number 5. Again, this is a very quick and easy job that will make a great tasting, healthy, low carb breakfast meal. A few pinches of spice that goes in there, nutmeg and cinnamon together. And again, even though it's savory, I want to add a bit of sweetness with this stevia. Just a squirt in there. Final thing to go in, and that's our 1.5 scoops of the Body Raise Pro Effect Whey. A 1.5 scoops of vanilla whey, one of the fastest acting wheys in there, so perfect for our slow release carbohydrates. It gives us a nice nutrient timed release over the next 3 hours. So this is one of the only meals that you have in the earlier part of the day. Best to have it that's going to provide you with the best release of energy. Lid goes on, start the blender. Look at that gorgeous color, orangey, cinnamon, nutty, spicy. Have the pan already heating up. I'm just going to spray some of this non-stick spray all around the edges there. And again, this will make 2 medium to large size pancakes depending how thick you want them. So half the ingredients goes in. Now while that's cooking, I want to tell you about some of the other points that I mentioned earlier. We've got food type, portion and timing. Let's have a look at timing. Breakfast is one of the most important times of the day to have more of your carbohydrates. In fact, there's 2, morning and post-workout, as this is when your body, or your muscles in particular, need the sugars to help raise their energy levels back up and keep the blood sugar level rippling along as normal. So if you only have carbohydrates at 2 times of the day, make sure they're at breakfast time and after your weight workout, as this is when your body's going to absorb the carbohydrates in the form of glycogen, sugar, energy, and keep them away from being stored as body fat. It's been a couple of minutes, time to turn this yam cake over. I can already see that it's risen a little bit more than the oat pancake, so I can see right there that there's going to be more food, which for me is a great thing. If I'm not having as much carbohydrates, I tend to be a little bit hungrier throughout the day. Look at that pumpkin reddish Albany color. It's looking and smelling amazing. So another minute, top side over. Yeah, it's looked about cooked. So I'm going to lift that off the pan nice and smooth. Can you believe that this one pancake is only about 10 grams of complex, slow releasing carbohydrates? So it's a great snack during the day if you are on a low carb or you want to limit the carbohydrates later on. Plus we're still getting about 25 grams of essential complete protein in this. Just gonna finish that off with a sprinkle of my spice. Again, a thermogenic here. Great for post-workout as it helps reduce inflammation. Look at that. And then let's get the rest of this yam cake cooking. More spray. And a further 2 more minutes to let that yam cake cook through. That looks about done to me. Again, slides nice and easily off the pan. I'm going to place that on top of there. That's even bigger than the first one. Look at that. So can you believe it that these 2 yam cakes only have about 20 grams of complex carbohydrates. We've maintained all of the protein in there. I mean, look how soft that is. It just peels apart. That smells delicious. And this weighs in at about 350 calories. So nearly 150 calories less than these 2 and less than half the carbohydrates. Yet look at them, they're about the same. In fact, these are probably bigger and more filling. Look how thick that one is. So there we have it. We've covered the 3 main principles of my carb conscious eating here. We've had a look at food type, the different type of carbohydrates, food portion, the amounts of each of the foods that go in, and timing. Both of these are ideal for breakfast. This one would even be ideal as a snack, especially if you were to have one of these yam cakes Maybe mix it with a handful of nuts for some healthy, optimal fats to add in there and to keep your blood sugar level consistent without it spiking up or down. Now that we've got our low carb and muscle building packed breakfast done, let's move them out the way, clear some space here, and move on to perhaps the next, if not the most important carb meal of the day, and that's our post-workout. So for that, back on with the blender. I have all the ingredients over here. Let's have a look at this. Start with the brown rice. 50 grams of brown rice. This has been pre-cooked and let soak all of the water up. This might look like an unlikely combination to add into our post-workout shake, but this complex carbohydrate is perfect for a slow release, matched with the fast-acting, higher glycemic ratios of the fruit here. Really simple. We're going to put the brown rice, all of it, into the blender. Make sure we get all of that in there. I'm also going to combine that with our protein that we used earlier, the Body Raise Pro Effect, 1 scoop of protein. So this together gives us about 45 grams of essential muscle building protein. As this is post-workout, I'm also going to add a scoop of this glutamine. About a teaspoon goes in there. This is going to help protect the breakdown of muscle and keep that full and healthy and allow all of the glycogen, especially from this fruit that's going in, to get into the muscles. So I have a 100-gram serving of raw mango. Remember, these are the more exotic fruits that have higher sugar content, meaning if you want to limit your carbohydrate, limit the exotic fruits. Have an entire kiwi here, only about 10 grams of sugar in there, and this is 80 grams of banana. So a nice combination of fast-acting exotic fruits in there. It's also going to add some amazing flavors into that mix. Now let's get some ice to go in there and top it up with some water. Add maybe 3 large ice cubes in here. And then with the water, I'm going to add about 1/4 of the water compared to the size of the cup. So that goes in like that. Let's get the lid on and once again, get this blender working. That looks just about ready. Oh wow. A combination of the mango, the kiwi, the banana, the vanilla protein in there, even the nuttiness of that brown rice has made this consistency like those old milkshakes you used to have as a kid. Wow, look at that. So this post-workout shake has, again, a near perfect blend of 50% complex carbohydrates, slow release energy from our brown rice, and equal amounts of faster acting, immediately muscle refueling sugars from the fruit, and about 45 grams of protein to again help replenish the lost energy, the amino acids in our muscle. Altogether, this is one muscle building packed 500 calorie, about 70 grams of carbs, 45 grams of protein, and only about 5 grams of fat. Gorgeous. Right, now we have our breakfast and our post-workout meal cooked and out of the way. Let's move on to latter in the day, or rather our final meal, nighttime. Now, I've mentioned about keeping carbohydrates fairly high in the morning for breakfast and post-workout, but later on in the day, into the evening in your final meal, you want to start to decrease and cut out the carbohydrates, as that's what's providing your body with fuel, and we want to limit the amount of fuel in the form of sugar so that the body can start to enter a state of fat burning mode at nighttime. So let's have a look at the ingredients that we picked up for the store for our evening meal, starting off with this squash here. Now, what I've done with half of this squash is simply taken a large knife, sliced it in half, and it looks something like that, but I'm not done there. What I do is put that into a cookable dish, topped with water up to about 1/2 inch, and put it in the oven for about 20 minutes on full power. Basically what this does is steam through this spaghetti squash, and then when it's cooked, careful, it is hot, take it out with gloves on, take a fork and just scrape down. First of all, remove all of the seeds, but then just scrape down lengthways, and you'll find that this spaghetti squash ends up something like, almost like spaghetti. But that's not the best thing. The best thing is the calories per cup. This bowl full, about 2 cups worth, only comes in at about 55 calories, and only 8 grams of those are actual carbohydrates, with very little being sugar. So we get a lot of food, but not that much calories, and hardly any grams of carbohydrates. And as always, whenever there's carbohydrates, there's protein. For the protein, I'm using about 4 ounces, 120 grams of extra lean minced turkey. You can see here, nothing to that except for turkey. And for that, we're gonna make turkey meatballs to add to this spaghetti-like squash. But I'm not done there. I'm gonna bring our greens over here. And the first thing I'm gonna do is take our Ezekiel bread that we bought. And remember, if you can't find Ezekiel, then you can use rye or this multi-seed whole grain oat type bread. It's only about 8 grams of real carbs in here, so I'm gonna shred that up, put that into the blender. This is gonna be the breaded crumbs that I'm gonna roll the turkey burgers in to really give it that authentic taste and texture. In there, I'm gonna add a sprinkle of these crushed chilies, just a tiny bit there, as well as some other seasoning in the form of cilantro. Just easy does it there. And finish off with some seasoning with our Himalayan pink sea salt. Again, great superfood here to add into the mix. Pinch of salt. And some freshly cracked black pepper. Okay, once again, this blender has proven to be the base for a lot of our low carb and muscle building carb foods. Let's get it working for the 4th and final meal. Okay, that's our breaded crumb done. So I'm gonna spatula this out onto a clean plate. Put our blender to one side. Next up, I'm gonna mix the turkey into our meatballs, adding some of our complex fibrous carbs first, by chopping up these red peppers and mushrooms. So I'm only making enough for one here. Let's take a handful of both. Remember, these carbohydrates that are locked away in the vegetables are often a small amount, and they're also more fibrous, meaning the body isn't able to unlock and access the calories quite the same way that it can from this Ezekiel bread, and certainly not the same way that it can from the pancakes and the yam cakes that we made earlier. So, I mentioned it in the store, vegetables are kind of a free food for me, especially green ones like the spinach we have. Just chopping the mushroom and the peppers up together, it's all going into the meatball. And again, this is going to give us that authentic Italian meatball taste by adding some vegetables into it, topped off with our spicy Ezekiel coating. The vegetables cut. You can see in this bowl that I've barely got any, and even with the spinach that we're going to be adding as a side garnish to the spaghetti squash and turkey meatballs, we're really not adding that much volume of vegetables. So even though they have fibrous complex carbohydrates, they have one of the lowest glycemic load indexes out there. Now let me explain on that. We've talked about glycemic index, which is basically the higher the number, the faster the carbohydrates are going to be broken down into the body and released as sugar. The glycemic load is how much of that is available in that food. And as we've seen with the spaghetti squash and the vegetables, even though it may seem like quite a large amount in terms of weight, it's not that much, hardly anything compared to our pancakes. So we can really load up on vegetables in the evening without any dangers of carbohydrates going to body fat. One final thing to do, and that's get our egg whites ready for the base to put our turkey balls in before coating them. So 2 egg whites here. Again, adding some complete essential muscle building protein along with that lean turkey. And I'm just going to give this a whisk with a fork to help break up those proteins, allowing the turkey to easily coat with the egg white. Okay, egg white's mixed. Got a clean pan here. Heat goes back on low heat. Again, reaching for my low-cal non-stick spray. Now comes the fun part again, getting my fingers messy and playing with my food. 4 main bowls here. I'm going to take our 120 grams of turkey, probably make 4 meatballs out of this. Start by creating about a golf-sized ball of meat. Dunk it in our veg and just mix that in so we get the veg all the way through the middle. Roll it in the egg whites and you can see the mixed egg whites really coat all of the turkey now instead of sliming off in one gunk ball. And then just dip that in our breaded spicy Ezekiel bread over here. Make sure we pat it down a bit. I really want to coat it in the breadcrumbs. And you can see we're not even going to use up all of this breadcrumb mixture over here. So again, we can probably half the carbohydrate calorie from that. Doesn't have to be too neat. That one looks pretty good to me. So let's put that in the pan. Continue making the other 3 balls. So we're going to give these balls anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes to cook on a slow heat before turning them over for the final few minutes. That gives me just enough time to wash up and prepare for the final addition to the spaghetti squash. They're looking like they're just about done. Before I take them off the heat, I'm gonna add this spaghetti squash onto our plate. Look how much food we're getting. Even if you were to half this, this is still a decent sized meal. And if you're anything like me, if I go low on carbohydrates, I often find myself even hungrier, especially at nighttime. So this low carb, high protein meal is really gonna help keep us full and not thinking about food. I'm just gonna lift these off, position them down here. Wow, this meal is huge. And it's under 500 calories. So low carb or not, even if you just want to lose weight, this is gonna be a great nighttime snack that's gonna provide you with all the healthy muscle building proteins as well as some good carbohydrates at night. You know what, I'm just gonna throw in some of this veg that we've got left over. Again, a free food, so as much as I want. Put some spinach right there in the middle. Chop it off there. So there we have our low carb and nutrient packed with complex fibrous carbs in there, some great muscle building protein to put alongside the rest of our carb conscious meals, our brown rice and exotic fruit post-workout smoothie, and probably my favorite of the day, our yam cakes made from yam and some whey protein and eggs. Or if you're on more of a muscle building diet, you can focus on these oat pancakes. Great choice of muscle building and slow release energy for early on in the day. So we've got time for today on Behind the Plate. Join me next time when I'll be taking another closer look at some of the latest trends and diet fads out there, taking a closer look at some of the ingredients that we can use to incorporate them into your fat burning, muscle building diet. Until then, I'm Rob Richards. Take care.